In today's video, we'll be looking at 8 last-minute revision tips for your GCSE Spanish speaking exams. Firstly, we'll look at the role play question, then the photocard question, and then the general conversation element of the speaking exam. We'll be looking at tips for all of these elements of the exam, but we'll also look at what to prioritise revising if you are quite near the final date for your speaking exam. Tip 1 is for the role play question, and this is to keep your sentences short and simple in response to each bullet point. Tip 2, aim to prepare the role play question really quickly. So you will have 12 minutes prep time before you start your speaking exam. If I were you, I'd try to aim to prepare the role play question in around 4 to 5 minutes, as you only need to keep the responses to this part of the exam really short and simple. Tip 3, check the context first. When you get your roleplay card in the preparation time, you will see the very first sentence, maybe the second sentence, it will tell you the context of the question. So this example here, it says that your teacher will play the part of a waiter or waitress in a restaurant in Mexico. It's really important to establish the context first, because that will help you form your answers to the bullet points. So, tip 4, and still on the role play question, is to revise question words. If you are very near the final date of your speaking exam, I would make this a priority if you're wondering where to go with revision. So, here are some question words and structures I would prioritize revising. We've got que, which is what, cuando, when, como, how, donde, where, cuánto or cuánta, cuántos and cuántas is how many, cuál, which. And then we've got 2 other structures which I think are really, really useful for the role play question, especially when you are forming the questions yourself. So we've got a qué hora, what time, and cuánto cuesta, how much does whatever cost. We are now moving on to the photocard question. So tip 5 is to develop your language and show off your Spanish. So hopefully you have finished preparing your role play question in around about 4 or 5 minutes. So you have a little bit longer to prepare the photocard question. And that is because in this part of the exam, you are required to really show off your Spanish. So make sure you're extending your responses, developing your language, and show off as much as you can in this part of the exam. Tip 6, and this is for the photocard question again, is to revise PALM key language. So PALM stands for people, action, location, and mood. Here are some example phrases for people, action, location, and mood. If I were you, I'd maybe memorize a couple of phrases for each category, just so that you've got something to go to in your preparation time. If you would like a bit more detail on the photocard question, I will link the video which goes into more detail on how to revise for it in the description box below. So, moving on to the conversation part of the speaking exam, tip 7 is to have some positive and negative go to adjectives that you can use in case you get a little bit stuck. So, what I always suggest is to have 3 positive and 3 negative go to adjectives. This is my list, but you can have a little think about which ones are most useful for you. So, for example, some positive adjectives could be gracioso, which is like fun or funny, entretenido, entertaining, impresionante, impressive. So, I can just use those if I'm thinking of something positive to say. And some negative adjectives could be asqueroso, awful, fatal, another word for awful, or fatigante, tiring. So think about 3 positive and 3 negative adjectives that you can use in case you just get a little bit stuck in the exam. So, tip 8, again for the general conversation, is to revise some key sentence starters in past and future time frames. Again, these would just be to use if you feel a little bit stuck. So I've just got 3 structures here that I would just have in my mind. I've got fui, I went, which is just a useful past tense sentence structure. Voy a ir, I am going to go. Or me gustaría. So they're just some ones to fall back on if you kind of forgotten what you want to say. Good luck with your speaking exams, Year 11. Adios!